Hi, parents. Tonight I want to talk to you about something that's going to seem kind of similar to a couple of things we talked about, but it's actually different. It's called enrichment. And if you read my blog on Monday, let me just make sure this is working right. If you read my blog on Monday, then you know that I've already talked about ways that you can think about enrichment in your own home environment for your pet. But think about the senses: taste, touch, sight, smell, and sound. So this tonight, I'm not going to go into that so much because I wrote a pretty long blog about cats and dogs with just a few ideas of things you could do for enrichment, but I wanted to show you how you can make an enrichment package for your pet. Now, an enrichment package is something that you can use for your pet if you're home and you just don't have time to interact with them right then, because we want them, they don't have to be busy all day, but we also don't want them not able to express their natural behaviors while we're doing something else, or intentionally distracting us because they're lonely and bored. So an enrichment package is something that you can use while you're at home or if you're away from home, and I think your pet will enjoy it. So it's something very simple, and I just want to let you know that some pet sitters actually charge to bring an enrichment package with them. When we go into people's homes, when petproductdelivery.com pet sits in people's homes in this area, we just naturally bring enrichment. We bring toys, novel toys the pets haven't seen before. We bring our own treats. And this is just a bonus for your pets because let's face it, when people feed the same food every day, the same treats and all that, the pet can get a little, it can get a little dull. So we bring those things naturally. We don't usually leave a package per se. During the Christmas season, we did bring Christmas packages with fresh toys for pets to keep forever. But an enrichment package is usually something that you can change up. So it starts with something simple. I chose to do an enrichment package for a small dog, but you could do one for a large dog or a cat. And if your dog is a chewer or a shredder, then you might consider, instead of using like a box like this, like maybe a bin without a top on it or something. But I chose a cardboard box for a small dog, and it could just be any cardboard box. And inside, I've chosen to put things of different value and different textures. So the first thing that I put in is my t-shirt. So if I'm going to be away and my pet's going to miss me, then I'll take a t-shirt that has not been washed and I can put it in my enrichment package. Another thing that I have in here is a blanket. Now this is a nice nebby blanket that my pets are familiar with. It's a small blanket for a small dog. We have big ones. In fact, our big ones are all over the house. They're all over the furniture. But it's a West Paw Big Sky blanket, and we have them all over the place. So these are really nice and they last a long time. And if this goes in your box, it'll be nice because the pet can get it out and it's like, oh, something familiar that they rest on, and oh, it's my little blanket. Since this is a small dog, I also have a small toy, and I'll tell you that if your dog is small enough, you can use cat toys. And a lot of dogs like them. I have a very, very tiny dog, and he happens to like not only dog toys, but also cat toys. So this particular ball is real nice and nubby. It's got a yarn-like texture, and it's non-toxic and safe for dogs. And I also have a rope in here. So this is like if you were home, you could play like tug of war. I'm not keen on tug of war for everybody, but if you have a dog that's not particularly aggressive or not aggressive at all, and they like a little tug, you can put that in there because even though they're by themselves, they still might want to gnaw on and chew on it, and it has different textures for them. And another thing you can put in is, I showed you this last video, is a really good treat puzzle. We don't want the whole thing filled up with treat puzzles because, then it actually becomes monotonous. So we want like one good treat puzzle, and I like this one because you can clean it and it's pretty nice. And I would just put like a sausage stick or something in there. And another thing that you can put in there is I have a nice horn. This horn is very chewed, so you want to make sure that at least one object, you have a puzzle toy so that they can have fun hunting the treat. You can also want something, if your dog is a chewer, something to chew. So this is a horn it's actually a water buffalo horn, that we sell on petproductdelivery.com, and it's pretty chewed up because it's well loved. So that is what you do. You just put it all in your box together, everything in your box. And then before you leave the house or before you start cooking dinner or working on the car or whatever you're going to do where you don't have time to play, you're going to fold the top over like this. I'll show you how it's going to look. So it's going to look like this when you finish. You have it all, you don't want to tape it shut. And if you have a cat that chews tape, like mine chews tapes, and you want to make sure you get all the tape off. If you have a cardboard box with tape, get all the tape off if you have an animal that chews tape. Fortunately, our dogs don't do that. So once you get this dog-eared over so that the flaps are crossed so that the box, nothing falls out, then you can put it upside down someplace. Don't make it too hard. Don't shove it underneath something where they just can't get it out, but just leave it where they know it's there, and then you're going to go off and do something, do your thing, and they can play with the box, knock it around. They're going to take their little feet and paw in here, and they'll get everything out and have a good time. One thing that's important, and people say, oh, my dog has so many toys, or my cat has so many toys and they don't play with them. Well, one reason could be because they see them all the time. And so what we do, especially for our cat Claudia, is for Maximus, we have like a doggy bin that we put all of his toys in, and he can still see them. But for a cat, or even any dog, but we take some of the toys away and put them in a cabinet, and then you can bring them back out, and it's like good as new. So you don't want too many, like if you have 20 to 30 toys laying around, that's not enrichment, that's just monotony. That's just too many things. You want a few choice things that they really like with different textures and different how can I put like different, that stimulate the senses in different ways. So let me give you an example. So I showed you the toys that I put into the box for a small dog. Some things that you might do for a cat is think about, let's see, I'm going to show you some different textures here. So this is like a sushi toy. This is Fab Cat, and every single piece of this sushi has a different texture. So there'll be like one type of material on one side and then a different material on another side. So if I was doing, and then it has Canadian catnip in it. So if I was doing like a enrichment package for a cat, then I might put something like this in it. And I have some other ones. So you can see like this toy has a feather and it has like a totally different kind of shape and feel than this toy. This toy is quite plain. It's a surfboard. It's a surfboard for, okay. It's a surfboard for cats. It's part of the Tiki collection for Fab Cat. And one of the things that I like about Fab Cat is that you can put them in a box like this, or they can play with them separate, or each and every one of them has a little loop. Even those sushi toys that I showed you, these sushi pieces, cat toys, every single one of them has a little loop, and this loop will go onto a wand. So when you're back home, let's say you're no longer cooking dinner and you're not working on the car or have gone to work, but you're back home and you want to play with your pet, you can take this wand. This wand, I wish I had gotten the package out, but this wand comes on a little package. It looks real small, but extends really, really long. And then on the other end, it's got this clear, you can't even see it. Isn't that cool? Your cat can't, I mean, you can see it a little bit, but it's a clear piece of filament. So your cat is not going to see this very well. Cats mostly see things that move. They don't see things that are standing still as well. They see movement. So they won't see this. What they'll see is this guy on the end. This guy on the end swinging around. So I like this toy because the end of it, you can just exchange. You can just never get bored because you can have, instead of buying like a gazillion different teaser wands, you can just buy this one Fab Cat teaser wand with a toy on the end, and then it's got a little snap and a swivel. I don't know if you can see it. See that snap and swivel? That unfastens from each one of these toys so they can be played with them by themselves, or you can put a brand new toy on and it's just like having another toy. Let me see if I can get it to make some sound. Can you hear that? Anyway, it makes a crazy, a crazy sound. Cats really like it. And so when you do your enrichment box for your cat, it can be a smaller box. It could even be like a cigar size box. And not that you don't want to put the whole pole, but you could put different shapes and sizes of toys inside that. So that's an enrichment box. Believe it or not, some pet sitters do charge for the enrichment box package so that they're bringing, and that's not a bad idea because they'll be bringing things from their home that your pet will never have seen, but you can also make it for yourself. So another thing that I wanted to talk about in this video is when I wrote my blog, I really focused on cats and dogs because most of us have cats and dogs, and petproductdelivery.com does sell things for cats and dogs, but when we do pet sitting, we sit all kinds of pets. Unfortunately, we cannot be everywhere. We can ship products all over the world, but we can only pet sit within a 10-mile radius of our office. So I wanted to share some ideas with you for other types of pets that are pretty common that really don't get a lot of enrichment. And we'll just start with fish. So some fish have like a pretty nice aquarium, but there are certain types of fish that people get because they think it'll be really easy and I'll just get one and I won't have the hassle of the aquarium. And one of those kinds of fish is a goldfish, and you've probably seen people winning them at the carnival and they're just in a bag by themselves, poor fishies, and they're carrying them all over the carnival. Hopefully they make it home. By the time they get home, they just have a plain bowl with nothing else in it, and this is not very good for the fish. And the same thing with bettas. With bettas, we call them, they used to be called Siamese fighting fish because they can be kind of aggressive to other fish. But that's really just a breeding behavior. In the wild, they're not each one at a time separate. They're living in like rice um, marshes and stuff, and they're living together. They might fight sometimes, but there's nothing wrong with having a betta in a environment by itself. But if you have it in an environment by itself, you need at least a 2.5 gallon setup with an undergravel gravel filter. Highly recommend putting plants in that tank. They can cohabitate with a nearite snail. I haven't seen them cohabitate well with other types of snails, but nearite definitely is nice, and it will keep the tank nice and clean. You can do like a big moss ball. You can put different types of things because they like to sleep under leaves. They like to sleep on top of leaves. So you can get some plastic plants or even some real live plants, and your betta will be much happier. Enrichment is allowing an pet or an animal to exhibit just how can I say, exercise its natural behaviors, right? It is not natural for a fish to be in a bowl. They can't close their eyes, folks. To be in a bowl that's lit up all the time with no place to hide, no place to rest, and nothing to do. It's not natural. Other types of fish I don't see neglected as much. Usually people will get at least a 10, 15, 20-gallon tank and set it up. They should clean it frequently. But anyway, that's an idea for enrichment for fish. Even a tiny, tiny betta. There's all kinds of fun things you can buy. There's a place called Fish Gallery here in the Woodlands. Actually, it's on the other side of the freeway. But you know, your local fish store will have really great things for your pet fish. Some other animals that I'd like to talk about are birds. So a natural behavior of birds is flying, right? So I would really recommend that before you get a pet, you really think about its natural behavior. You know, dogs like to run, they like to hunt, cats like to climb and claw. Think about the behavior that your pet exhibits naturally and allow them to do that. Set up your home in such a way that they can do it in a positive way. If they're tearing up your belongings, you're not going to be very happy, and your pet's not going to be happy either because it's going to be frustrated because every time it does something that seems natural to it, you're going to be angry at it, at the poor pet. So birds, I don't want to cause a whole lot of controversy or spend a lot of time on this, but quite frankly, I did try cutting my birds' wings when I had birds a while back, just a couple of times, but then I just thought, this is ridiculous. You can let your birds fly around. They do poop on things, so you want to kind of control the area they fly in. You can even build an aviary. It's not that hard to do. Our birds, we just left the door open for a little while, let them have some exercise, and then let them go back into their little environment. They'll do it on their own. And within that environment, you want to have a cage that's big enough that they can spread their wings, that they're not all cramped. You want to have gravel for them, cuddle bone, things that they can chew. Most hooked-beaked birds like parakeets and cockatiels, they want to chew on something. We had zebra finches. We let them fly around. Zebra finches really require a little nest that you can buy for zebra finches. So I'm just kind of putting you on the path of thinking about natural behaviors that your pet, whatever pet you have, exhibit, and then creating that ability for them to exercise those behaviors in your home. Okay. So birds, we used to let them out. Sometimes we'd let them walk around the table. A bird likes to get out of the house. I mentioned in my last video, if you can tether your bird, it's not a hard thing to do, but it depends on the type of bird. But I would not let a bird fly outside that's domestic pet. Some people do, but they have to work up to it. I don't recommend it because if a big wind comes, that poor bird has not had much of an opportunity to practice resistance. You know, we don't get a lot of wind resistance inside the house, so they'll be long gone. So don't set your bird free outside. Use a little tether and let them get some fresh air. There's one lady locally that has canaries, and she'll take the whole cage out. She'll take the whole cage to the park and let the canaries sit on the bench with her, and I think that's awesome. You know, it gets to get outside and get some fresh air. So definitely consider that if you have some birds. One thing that I see a lot is people who get what's called pocket pets, like hamsters and such, and they put them in a little cage, and then they don't understand why the animal's afraid of them and biting them and just doesn't live very long. So some rodent type pets like hamsters, mice, and rats don't live long anyway. They've got about 3 years. So make them happy years, folks. Make them happy. Um, Hamsters are really, they look similar to mice and rats, but they're very, very different. So a hamster in the wild is a hunter. They will eat not only their grains and whatnot, but they will also eat grasshoppers. I mean, they're pretty assertive animals, and they'll travel a long way at night. They're nocturnal. They'll travel a long way, you know, hunting in their territory and bringing food home. And this is not the way that they are set up in the home household at all. In the household, usually it's a small cage, and they have an exercise wheel. I think an exercise wheel is good for burning off energy. They got to run. But we want to think about, well, you know, you can let the hamster out in your home a little bit. They do make those little balls, and that's a big controversy. Some people absolutely hate those. They think it's like a nightmare for the pet because the pet cannot get out. I've seen pets that seem to be enjoying them. So if that seems like something your pet will enjoy, you know, give it a try and just see how they like it. But a better idea might be just keep connecting those tubes. You know, a lot of these hamster homes will have long tubes, and that really satisfies your hamster's need to travel. And you can have a lot of fun too, building like a whole big hamster city. You can just, you know, there's really no limit to how many of those little tubes you can put together. If you don't have other animals in the house, you can definitely take the hamsters out and play with them outside of their enclosure, and they'd probably enjoy that so long as you're not harassing them while they're trying to sleep. I did see, and there's all kinds of things you can buy for hamsters. They like to chew, so you can buy a variety of things for them to chew. I've seen people on YouTube. We have some YouTubers that make tiny, tiny little meals for that. Like they're actually cooking these tiny little meals for hamsters. And I would say if that makes you happy and your hamster happy, go for it. But do make sure that every single thing you're feeding your hamster is something that they would naturally feed on in the wild. You know, a souffle with cream topping, not so much. Please don't make something like that for your hamster. But if you want to make like a little pie out of birdseed or something, go for it. They'll probably really enjoy it. I did see a tiny, tiny sofa for a hamster, and I'm just going to say, as cute as that was just cute and adorable. That is the biggest waste of time and money. Do not buy a tiny sofa for your hamster because they like to chew and poop on things in their enclosure, and you want to keep it clean. So if you want to do it, you could do it, but I don't recommend it because is that even safe for a hamster to chew? And you know, the material that it's made out of, you know, if any of you guys have any information on this, put some comments in the, you know, below this video. I would really like to know if that's not something I would ever carry. If that little sofa made for a hamster is, I think it's made out of polyethylene. I just don't see it as being a good idea. But you can buy little furniture that's made to chew for hamsters, and that would be awesome. So if you get a hamster, keep in mind they like to travel, they're nocturnal, and they eat many different things. So don't stick them with just one thing that would really be boring. So, and I've also had mice and rats, and they are amazing. Mice are and rats are very, very social. Unlike hamsters, they tend to like to travel in groups, so they will socialize with people. You've got to handle them a lot. I've had mice that I just carried in my pocket and took everywhere. Mice like to play games. They're pretty smart little guys. One game that we used to play was Wrestle for the Peanut, and we'd let our mice play on the coffee table, and we'd take a peanut about this big, and we'd hold on to the peanut, and the mouse would grab it, and it would just be a fun game for the mouse and us. And of course, make sure that the peanut has nothing on it. It's got to have no salt, no sugar, no oil, just a plain old peanut. And we would let them go after they would, it's just like the equivalent of playing tug of war with your dog and then somebody wins. Well, same way with the mouse. They really enjoyed that. They'd come back for more play. So, yeah, so mice, definitely very social. Their enclosure, again, should be more than just an aquarium with a top on it. You can make all kinds of fun things for your mice. They don't really need all the traveling tubes and stuff that a hamster does. I would say for your mouse, just consider taking them out and going places and doing stuff with them. They would enjoy it. Same thing with rats, although rats really freak people out for some reason. They just have a bad rap. Rats are actually intelligent, sensitive pets. And I did have a neighbor once that had rats and cats. That's not something I've ever tried. I want, think that you should be very careful about the combinations of pets that you get. I have had cats with birds. Bad combination. It's unless you just want to be uncomfortable and on your guard all the time, because those cats will figure out a way to get those birds most of the time, especially if they're very small birds. I've seen some people on YouTube that had cats and birds together and they're doing great. Didn't work out so well for us. I've also had dachshund with hamsters. Dachshunds are hunting dogs. You know, unless you just want to keep your hamsters someplace where it'll never ever come in contact with a dachshund, then it's going to be really hard because the dachshund's always going to be thinking about ways to get that hamster or mouse or whatever. So and also when I had birds, I would let the dachshund run outside while the birds were flying because dachshunds are hunters, and it has been my experience that I like them for a lot of reasons. Dachshund's a great dog to go camping with, and just great all around dogs, but they are hunters, and you have to consider that when you have them with other animals. Another pet I want to talk about is guinea pigs. Guinea pigs do not get enough enrichment at all. And one of the mistakes that people make with guinea pigs is thinking that since they're social, you can just get one and that's your pet. You cannot do that. A guinea pig is one of the rare animals that absolutely must be with one of its own kind. If a guinea pig is not with another guinea pig, at least one other guinea pig, they are not going to be happy. They're going to be sad guinea pigs. They also need more room than we usually give them. I had the very unfortunate experience when I was very young of getting a guinea pig as a pet when I was very, very young. Had a guinea pig book, but not enough information about how to take care of that guinea pig, and it didn't live a very happy life, I have to say. Now that I'm older, I know you just have to have certain considerations for guinea pigs. You can have like a little cage or hutch area, but then you want to have like an area maybe padded with like some sheets down or something that you can pick up and clean. That can be their play area where they can get out and they can have things to climb on. These are animals that live in the mountains of the southern hemisphere. It's not natural for them to live in a very small space cramped up. So you want to have an area where they can play, things for them to chew. They like to chew on things, some fresh greens, fresh vegetables and things they really like. Enhance their environment. Don't just stick them with some pellets in a little cage. It's not so good. Um, the last pet that I want to talk about is sugar gliders. I think I just want to talk about sugar gliders. No, no. Let's talk about sugar gliders and hedgehogs. So sugar gliders, I think that I've seen enough people on YouTube. I knew a lady that used to breed them, and that's a nice pet for certain people. Again, they're super social, super fun pets if you handle them a lot. If you do not handle them a lot, I've seen sugar gliders that are just terrified of people. You have to pick them up gently and kind of acclimate them to people because sugar gliders are not really domesticated animals. They're actually wild animals that you can tame. So there is a difference. Does that make sense? So a domesticated animal is an animal that over a long period of time we have bred in such a way that we have changed them somewhat. I think we can all agree that our pet dogs are not just like wolves. We can see that. Our pet dogs are not just like wild wolves. Now, they have a lot of the same instincts and behaviors, but over many generations, we have developed them into ideal companions. There are some animals that we sell as pets that are basically still wild that we have to tame, and the the sugar glider would be one of those. But if you ever go on YouTube, hang on just a moment. If you ever go on YouTube, anyway, sorry about that interruption. But anyways, I was saying, if you've ever been on YouTube, you've seen lots and lots of people, or if you haven't, just go on YouTube and type in sugar gliders. You'll see lots of people letting sugar gliders exhibit their natural behavior, which is gliding. And so that's a lot of fun. Like if you have that kind of a pet, there's really no reason to get that kind of a pet if you don't want to let it exhibit its natural behavior. So if you're worried about a little marsupial in your house jumping all around, maybe that's not the pet for you. And the very last pet I want to talk about is hedgehogs. Now, hedgehogs are not naturally super social. They can be a little grumpy. Each one has its own personality, but they can be fun if you get them young, handle them a lot. This is another animal that's really not a domestic animal. It's really, although we've bred them to have a lot of different colors and whatnot, they're really still more wild. But if you enhance their environment and give them lots of things to do that are part of their natural behaviors, they'll be a pretty good pet. They do curl up into a little ball when they're afraid or feeling grumpy, but you can just get a little pouch. You can purchase a pouch or even make a little pouch, strap it on yourself, carry them that way, and they'll actually enjoy that. They'll enjoy that. They like to curl up and burrow, but there are certain dietary restrictions that you have to consider with a hedgehog because they are carnivorous. Now, they may look to some people like rodents, but they're not even remotely related. They are carnivorous and they like things like mealworms and grubs and that kind of thing. Some people feed them cat food. That's fine, but really do your research on these pocket pets. You know, birds, fish, um, mice, all of these creatures, they deserve enrichment also. Don't just. One of the things that makes me a little bit sad, like I have loved pets since day one. I used to as a little kid, I used to love going into pet stores and just looking at pets all day. But now that I'm older and I've been in the industry for a long time, I recognize that a lot of these pets are not really having their best lives. So let's take care of our pets, enrich their environments, give them their best lives. And I will talk to you next time. Bye for now.